Hello, this is Angela with Park Rose Permaculture. I am down in the part of my garden that is really close to the house. You can see here I'm under the pergola and I'm pruning a contorted mulberry today. And while I was pruning, I noticed that a plant in this portion of the garden is ripening and I want to share it with you all. So I have the next portion of my 2020 Food Forest Garden Tour coming up later this week. And that includes talking about this mulberry and everything else growing in this part of the garden. So if you haven't seen any of that, that's because that video is not out yet. I do have some individual videos, including one from 2017 when I planted this mulberry. But today I want to focus on a different plant. So as we move into this part of the garden, we're going to come under the curtain of the mulberry and we're going to enter the shade garden. Now, when you step into the shade garden, you come through this gate and the main path is this way. And again, I'll be talking about it later this week in great detail. But I want to share with you a plant that is tucked away in a corner here. So before you enter this main path, there's a little area here to the left along the fence this is my neighbor's fence. And I have a little nook, and in this nook I grow a special plant. And I'm a big fan of growing things that are really special to me, either fruit I really enjoy or ornamentals, in secret little nooks and corners of the garden. It makes them feel all that much more cherished and magical and like a real treat that you get to discover. So also it means that this is a plant that visitors and my kids rarely find in the garden, which is good because all of the fruit is for me. And then also because it's very thorny, it's good to grow it in a tucked away location. So it's actually because of the way the sun is going to be easier for me to walk around and show you over the fence. So let's go this way. We're going to go past this mulberry. Hang tight with me. Again, you can see all the chop and drop I've been doing. Go back in this bed and here we go. So here's this plant. This is Rubus occidentalis, the Blackcap Raspberry, a Pacific Northwest native. It is similar to its cousin in appearance, which is Rubus leucodermis, which is also native to the West Coast. The blue raspberry, also sometimes called black raspberry. It is different than a blackcap. So blackcaps grow like your typical raspberry. They have primocanes the first year, which you can see this primocane right here. See this right here? And then let's look up and up and up and up and up. That's a primocane. And you don't want to prune that off this year because it will set next year's fruit. And then, so it looks right now kind of like gray, pale green. And next year when it fruits, it will look like this. I don't know if you can see here. It will be thick and it will have a bloom to it. And if you wipe off the bloom, like on a blueberry, it's a white bloom and underneath is very red, reddish brown. Okay, and that produces this year's fruit. And it does so in these offshoots off of it. And you can see the fruit way back there. And it gets very tall. So I actually take this primocane in the fall and I bend it down and I tie it to the fence. Otherwise, what happens is when it's laden with these fruit-heavy offshoots, it tends to snap. So I bend it when it's more pliable so that next year the fruit will be lower and the primocane that becomes next year's florocane won't break. So here we go. You can see what the fruit looks like. So at the end of each stalk, you get this kind of whorl of fruit that is set. And it starts to ripen in the middle. So that's the first berry to ripen, and then they start to ripen around the outside. And then as you move down, the very thorny cluster, so here you can see an unripe one, you get these smaller clusters of 2, and they ripen even later. So I really like this fruit because you can come browse off of it, graze off of it for many days in a row. It is a fruit that I think is really good for fresh eating, and I like that successive harvest where not everything is ripe all at once, so you can continue to enjoy small quantities of it in season. You can see how thorny it is, very, very thorny. That's again part of the reason I grow it up against a fence. It does well in partial shade, and that's because it lives in the understory of a woodland understory. So its cousin The blue raspberry really lives in coniferous forests, and the blackcap is not as restricted. It tends to have a broader habitat. So this plant I think is really special and really worth growing because it's not readily commercially available, and the flavor of a blackcap cannot be matched. It has a unique flavor that I enjoy much more than regular raspberries, and that is saying something because I really, really enjoy regular raspberries. I grow red ones, I grow fall gold ones, I grow the cousin of raspberries, thimbleberries. This is my favorite. So when you go to pick the berry, you pull it off, and you can see the center. Oh, I squished it a little bit. The center stays with the berry, or with the plant, excuse me, and it doesn't come off with the berry. And that's how you know that it's a true raspberry. I'm gonna eat this real quick and show you another one. So here's the ones I picked yesterday. You can see that white center stays with the plant, and what you take is a cup-shaped raspberry. Let me pick one over here. So there's the cup shape, and it's hollow. And that's how you know it's a raspberry and not a blackberry. These have kind of a, for lack of a better word, they're more toothsome. They have a better texture. I want to describe it as like leathery. And I mean that in like the best possible way. It has just a really cool texture to it when you eat it, more enjoyable than any other kind of raspberry. And again, not readily available in stores, but you can tell I've been picking them and eating off them. It is totally worth growing, and they also freeze really well. Now, I personally think that while I do freeze quite a few for smoothies and shakes and things later in the year, you can't be eating these fresh. They're so good, and again, really easy to grow. Like regular raspberries, they don't like wet feet or they will get root rot, so you want to grow them up on a little hilled up area, but they can take more shade without getting fungal diseases than a red raspberry, so you can grow them. Again, they are in my shade garden, so the feet in the shade and then stretching up into the sun to fruit is a way you're going to get a really big fruit set off of this plant. So again, that is Rubus occidentalis, the blackcap raspberry, native to the North American continent. Delicious crop, excellent, well worth a place in your permaculture garden. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go back to pruning. And if you enjoyed this, please like and please subscribe to my channel. And later in the week, I will have the last installment of my 2020 food forest tour. So I hope you come back and watch that. Thanks.